I adore the concept of a character not acting like themselves. Be it possession, someone disguised and pretending to be a character, or just an evil clone of a character. I just like alternate versions of characters in general. Make fun of 2000s video game and movie reviewers all you want, but there is a appeal in having an evil version of yourself around, amongst other reasons. Any good series worth their salt have an evil look-alike. And that's why I like Puyo Puyo. It has a bunch of doppelgangers, even if they are barely playable in most games. Also, in case you don't know, here are the Wiktionary definitions of a doppelganger. Noun. 1. A ghostly double of a living person, especially one that haunts such a person. 2. An evil twin. 3. A remarkably similar double. 4. A person who has the same name as another. 5. A fantastic monster that takes the forms of people, usually after killing them. Got the gist? But you can call me Husky, I suppose. I'm using Ringo as my PNG tuber avatar because I have no good sense of self. And also commissioning is expensive and I'm not sure I wanna keep doing this. Or am I a doppelganger of Ringo? Let's start with the mother of them all. The doppelganger of main protagonist, Ol Nadia. Doppelganger Arle. Being the doppelganger of the main character means that she gets to be called Doppel by the fans with very little confusion. What is confusing though is, how do I even put it? There's Doppel the character, and then there's Doppels, plural, the random enemies in the Madao Monogatari games, and some outliers like Warl in the Sega Mega Drive version, then there's Lilith. But I just wanna talk about the random enemies and the character. These are probably the closest you get to the kill and replace doppelganger in this series. They wanna be Arle. They wanna kill her. That's about all you need. The doppelganger Arle that's an actual character has this aura about her in her debut game, Puyo Puyo N. As you can hear with this music. And then you have her boss music. She has a presence unlike everyone else in this series because of this. You have to keep in mind she probably has actual killing intent as well. And we have no real clue as to where she came from. Compared to Arle, who's usually upbeat, Doppel is really reserved and chuckles sinisterly. Assuming she successfully became Arle, I don't think too many people would be fooled after a while. The people who like Arle for who she is. And I doubt Doppel can put up the right act. But she's also a clown. So maybe she can. Because she's also a clown. I know it's just a disguise, but I can guarantee Doppel would act more like Arle if she acted more like a clown. But we don't know. Doppel being this clown is made out to be a plot twist, but her disguise has such comically short screen time before that reveal. All you see of the form in Puyo Puyo N, her debut game, is in the opening cutscene on the disc-based versions like PlayStation and Dreamcast, the opening slideshow on Nintendo 64, and she is at least the first opponent of the Game Boy Color version, which came out a year later. The real plot twist is just that Doppel is a thing. I'll be honest, Puro, the name of her clown disguise, is my favorite part about Doppel. There's something creepy about this murderer disguising herself as an innocent clown who gives balloons to children. So it always just kinda sucks it was always a means to an end. Even in Puyo Puyo Quest, Puro only exists to evolve into Doppel. She always keeps the mask around even after she sheds the disguise, but still. It never really got much use. Also, they made Puro look more sinister. Not a fan of these colors. Yaki Nasu Grave is a harder version of Nasu Grave in Puyo Puyo box. Moving on. For how popular Witch is, her doppelganger, Dark Witch, is surprisingly mundane and underused. On a visual level, she's just Witch, but purple, and also has these eye things. On a lore level, it's implied she actually is Witch. As if she got corrupted with power. So she might not even count as a doppelganger. But she is the final boss in her debut game, Comet Summoner. Said game was also normal Witch's game. So I guess that does make her a doppelganger? Is it time travel? I'll let this technicality slide. Seems like her only other appearance was in Puyo Puyo box, where she's just an opponent, no story. As a doppelganger, Dark Witch is different from Doppelganger Arle in the sense she's a character she's derived from, but evil. Personality wise I mean. Which I find a little amusing. Regular Witch isn't evil, but she is a little morally scrupulous. She has no problem using people as test dummies for her magic potions, and if she's an alleged pervert, which is definitely one. You know, put like that, it is believable Witch does become Dark Witch if she truly is a future version of herself. All of this is speculation. Dark Witch gives me so little to work with. Burning Soul is a harder version of one of my favorite Puyo characters, Will-o-Wisp. Burning Soul was only ever in Puyo box. Moving on. This next one might be my favorite. Kikimora's doppelganger, Nega Kikimora. Or Black Kikimora if you prefer. As you may have noticed, Kikimora is a maid. She has OCD, she is absolutely compelled to clean everything she thinks is dirty. Nega Kikimora may look the part of maid as well. Her colors invoke a maid more than regular Kikimora, but Nega Kikimora is the anti-maid. She's Kikimora's cartoonishly evil opposite clone, hence the Nega in her name, which I think is better than Black Kikimora. She lives to make things dirty, resulting in scenarios where they clean up after each other's messes. I don't even think she has OCD like her good counterpart. For all we know she probably is just trolling everyone, living to make everyone mad. She's definitely one of the more simpler doppelgangers to understand. She's not only Kikimora's evil clone, she's also everything she stands against. Nega Kikimora, to me at least, also has the most positive effect on the person they are based on. It's such a vintage superhero concept. And said superhero concept gives this superhero quality to Maid of all things. It just elevates Kikimora for me. It's definitely thanks to Nega Kikimora that regular Kikimora is one of my favorite Puyo characters because of that. The downside is, Kikimora is a minor character, and that makes Nega Kikimora even more minor. Kikimora was lucky she had her own game at one point, otherwise Nega Kikimora would never have been a thing. Shout out to Ragnas for not having a doppelganger when Kikimora does. Carbuncle, Arle's lagomorph friend, discounting the fake carbuncles in some games, has a doppelganger in Puyo Puyo Quest. Its descriptions basically identify it as the actual carbuncle, but something is off about it. Like it's scheming. They don't confirm it is a doppelganger as far as I'm aware, but they also don't unconfirm it. I am gonna assume it's a different entity though, considering it speaks in coos instead of goos like how the regular carbuncle speaks. The gem is also different. This is what we know about Dark Carbuncle. It's a mysterious creature. It likes food. You can't tell what it's plotting. I just described regular carbuncle as well. Save for the food bit, regular carbuncle isn't as obsessed with food, and almost exclusively only eats curry. Dark Carbuncle doesn't specify anything, just food. It'll eat any type of food it seems. That's certainly a destructive trait, but I'm not sure if Dark Carbuncle has any story bits in Puyo Puyo Quest, but on paper, regular Carbuncle is scarier. At least Dark Carbuncle has a modus operandi, you'll know what it's after a while. Regular Carbuncle is an agent of chaos, he does whatever it feels like turning the moon into a second sun. I don't think I can properly describe what kinda doppelganger Dark Carbuncle is. It's certainly a more antagonistic version of Carbuncle, but it's at least more predictable. I don't know what to make of this. They are similar yet so different. Raffiner, no. Grey Wolf is a harder version of one of those lesser known Puyo Puyo characters I have a soft spot for, Lycanthrope. Grey Wolf was only ever in Puyo box. Moving on. Okay, I gotta talk about this butthole for context for a few of the next doppelgangers I'm gonna talk about. It's fairly safe you already know who he is. I assume you probably already are a Puyo Puyo fan, but in case you aren't, Ecolo is one of the major antagonists in the series. In the sense he's the most reoccurring pain in the butt around. He's a weird being that travels through time and space. That body you see probably isn't solid. You could probably stick your arm right through it and come out through the other side. He uses this fact to shapeshift in his debut game, Puyo Puyo 7, and only Puyo Puyo 7. He doesn't even use it in the story, it's gameplay only. In the story he only possesses someone. And in future games he only apparently mimics some motions of other characters. So yeah, Ecolo isn't really a doppelganger. But he should do it more often. He is a butthole. He could easily shapeshift into someone else and make them guilty for something they didn't do. I can count on one hand how many times in a story mode a character fights themselves. And none of them are because of Ecolo. There's some missed potential there. Even if he can seemingly only take the shape, not the color. Didn't stop Shadow Mario. Or Shadow the Hedgehog. Ecolo only shapeshifts into 3 characters during battle. Ringo, because she's the protagonist. I'm not sure if Ecolo had a thing for her yet. I'm not gonna revisit Puyo Puyo 7 for a while. And Clug and Felly. Those two seem like random choices for sure. But Clug and Felly have a connection. But Ecolo doesn't. But there's a good reason for this. Puyo Puyo 7 was a mess and they needed to work with what they had. That's at least a secondary reason. I think the real reason is that Felly can see the future and the past. Clug spells are things we have observed in space. Ecolo travels through time and space. So while it may seem random, there is a reason behind it. So it means something.
But it doesn't mean anything.
Ecolo still has no relation to Felly and Clug. Did they meet in another time and space and left a big enough impression on Ecolo or something? So Liddell, Draco Centaurus, and the Dark Prince Satan have been associated with each other ever since Puyo Puyo 15th anniversary and Puyo Puyo 20th anniversary, with Liddell sorta adopting them as her older siblings. Whether they agreed to it or not, it is how it is, even if they're not that close. They have green hair, horns, and an obsession with looks to varying degrees. This is the out-of-universe reason why these next 3 doppelgangers, who are 3 separate characters, but are one character in gameplay that evolves into the next, are cut from the same cloth. In universe they just happen to be based on these 3. They are known as Altered Liddell, Altered Draco, and Altered Satan. And Altered Liddell and Altered Draco look like this while Altered Satan looks like this. Again, gameplay wise these 3 evolve into each other like Pokemon. They are made because Ecolo is a butthole. I will not elaborate further as to why. Ecolo explains them away as they may or may not be manifestations of the person's regret. Or something. And it does show with Altered Liddell. Liddell wanted to not be shy. And Altered Liddell is a very confident brat. But I don't really see it with Altered Draco and Satan. Altered Liddell is definitely the most different of them. Liddell is shy and demure. Altered Liddell has no qualms about being in your face and demanding people to look at her. Altered Draco basically seems to just be a slightly more arrogant, but more reserved Draco. Based on her expression I'd like to think she's smarter too, not that you see much of it. And Altered Satan is pretty much the same. All the difference you need to know you can tell right away by comparing their art. That goes for all 3 of them honestly. I like how they look. Gremlin Liddell especially, with Altered Draco in second place. Draco usually has these cute poses when she isn't doing an attack, and Altered Draco has this mature looking pose I just like. Again, I'm a fan of when a character doesn't act like themselves. They disappear once they've been told that the reason as to why they were made is less of an issue now. At least Liddell's and maybe Satan's does. It could very well have flown over my head. Altered Draco still seems to be around by the end of the story, which I find hilarious. Of these 3 Draco is the one who wouldn't learn a lesson. These 3, or at least the idea of these kind of Ecolo created clones, have some potential. They can be used for a similar idea as I had for Ecolo, mimicking a character to give them a bad name. In a better written story, these clones made from someone's regret would have great story potential. Plus they can cover a wide array of evil clone tropes. Like opposite personality clone, just the same but evil, and just the same with some minor difference. I wouldn't even call them evil, they are just made to annoy, and they do that. Except for Altered Satan, he doesn't even meet Satan. I do wonder though, why Ecolo can't shapeshift with color. But he can create these with color. They are all Ecolo to an extent if this blobby Ecolo stink is anything to go by. So full transparency, I haven't played or seen the part of the game this one comes from. Forgive me if I get things wrong. I'll play it if I ever make a Puyo Puyo chronicle in a nutshell. This is Rafazil and she's Arle's doppelganger, made from either the inverse of love or the absence of love, thanks to that necklace Ecolo gave her. That's right, the butthole strikes again. Arle is a very love-based character. So you'd think Rafazil would be anti-love based. Rafazil being the nigger Kikimora to Arle's Kikimora. Rafazil even has Arle's colors inverted. But no. These two might look similar, but even if you consider that Rafazil is made from the inverse absence of that thing Arle is all about, these two have very little in common. 1. Rafazil is just incidentally based off of Arle. Because if anyone else had that necklace, Rafazil would look different. 2. Rafazil floats and is way more powerful than Arle. I don't think a simple copy would be that. She's just a mass of magic in Arle shape. 3. She has no memories of ever being Arle. This isn't always a given, but I think it matters in this case. Rafazil is effectively a newborn. A newborn with a preconceived but false notion of the world. 4. Notice how Rafazil's name, unlike everyone else that isn't Ecolo, isn't duplicate based adjective, Arle. I don't know if Arle and Rafazil have specific meanings that complement each other or not, but I think it's another example. 5. And in Japanese Arle and Rafazil don't even share a voice actress, which would imply Rafazil's body isn't even a biological copy of Arle's body. It really just has Arle's shape, just more spiky. In English they do share a voice actress, but they sound so different anyway. Kira Buckland does a great job with both. She's the Skull Girl. Rafazil, despite her powers and origin, is the doppelganger closest to the most mundane definition. She's just a look-alike. And isn't that just weird? Rafazil is weird, she doesn't fit a mold. She isn't even evil. Just misguided because she's a near-literal newborn born of an unwanted pregnancy between Ecolo and Arle. At least Arle is a supportive mom to Rafazil while Ecolo is off being a drunk butthole in time. Rafazil has a necklace too. Could she make another, more magical Arle? Could all Arles make more Rafazils? I am not gonna waste much time on this one. This is Suketoudara, and this is Fake Toudara. For 2 years in a row Fake Toudara has been an April Fool's edition. While Suketoudara loves to dance, Fake Toudara really loves to dance. I'm only mentioning him for the sake of it. I don't think he counts. He may or may not have some relation to Suketoudara. This next one's a doozy. This is Suketoudara. And this is Flame Suketoudara. I actually swapped them. I bet you couldn't tell them apart. This isn't a doppelganger, I just wanted to share that with you. Flame Suketoudara is an oddity from very early on in Puyo Puyo Quest's life that never got support ever again. Because it's a magnificently useless ult, especially now that Suketoudara is at rank 7 now while Flame Suketoudara is forever at rank 3. It's just Suketoudara again and that's all she wrote. Ults have evolved beyond tracings and most of them have unique poses. This is just a pose Suketoudara had in Puyo Puyo 20th anniversary. The second most useless ult is probably this Draco holding a tambourine. She never got any support after her debut either, but at least she's holding a tambourine. Oh, I forgot, Flame Suketoudara does have an ult. It's just wrongly attributed to regular Suketoudara. Wood Hunter is a harder version of Archan in Puyo Puyo box. Moving on. So, this is Ringo. I am not that big a Ringo fan. Because I don't know who she is. She simultaneously has a lot of character traits, while never leaving an impression on me. And I know she was supposed to be an everyman at one point, someone like us, who'd find all the Puyo shenanigans weird. You know, a straight man. But more often than not I wanna say she's a weirdo. My personal speculation is because Ringo is voiced by a celebrity, and the Puyo developers feel like they are walking on eggshells and keep her as one ear in and out the other as possible because they want her to keep the role. Please don't spread that as gossip. I genuinely couldn't tell you what it is what doesn't click because she does have a fan base. Glad you can see something in her I don't. I bring this up because the Puyo Puyo Quest exclusive Poison Ringo is very much intentionally vague. They don't intend to answer anything about her. She seems to exist because the artists were just bored one day. Poison Ringo seems to be just an idea they wanted to implement just because. And that reason would have to be because they were juggling words around and landed on Poison Ringo. Ringo meaning apple. Which leads to imagery of a poisoned apple peddler apple girl. If true I think that's pretty cool. We don't know much about her besides her being more blatantly a different person than Dark Carbuncle is to Carbuncle, and that she really wants you to try her apples. And apparently she didn't have a name before if her rank 3 is to be believed. Which raises some questions. Putting that aside, she's just a girl that looks and sounds like Ringo. As far as I know, she just looks like her and that's the end of that. It is possible they have nothing to do with each other. No seeming relation. I don't think they've ever even interacted. I could be wrong about that. They very well could have had a story section together. Based on this Snow White Ringo alt, it's likely they did. Poison Ringo does have some of the best expressions in all of Puyo Puyo, as does regular Ringo, so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree into the cauldron. Tsujijeri Mole is a harder version of one of my favorite Puyo characters, Samurai Mole. Tsujijeri Mole was only ever in Puyo box. Moving on. Now hear me out on this one. I think Satan has a doppelganger in Masked Satan. I know that sounds crazy, but have you ever noticed they are the same species? I know that doesn't mean anything. You and me are from the same species, and we probably don't look alike. But Masked Satan is wearing a mask, and he says he's not Satan. So it's very possible that behind that mask is Satan's doppelganger. What possibly supports this fact is that in the localized Neo Geo Pocket Color port of Puyo Puyo Tsu, Masked Satan is called Masked Prince. As in Dark Prince, how Satan is known whenever he's officially localized. This can mean one of two things. 1. The localizers were onto something. 2. The localizers missed the point so hard with the Japanese wordplay which may or may not even have been there, and just named him Masked Prince just based on the similarity to Dark Prince. Which is bad translating at best and speciesized at worst if true. And before you say,
but Masked Satan's mask breaks after the match, it's clearly Satan. The ending makes that clear without very little room for doubt.
And I'm not arguing there. That's definitely Satan being pathetic on the ground. But is that Masked Satan? Think about it. The last we see of Masked Satan, the screen goes black and the Puyo match starts. When it ends we're in a different location and Satan is behind the mask. And since Masked Satan said he wasn't Satan, where's Masked Satan? I don't think that proves anything, I'm afraid. He is definitely Satan's doppelganger though, even if you wouldn't be able to tell from a glance. I think it's a very conventional one. They look similar. Satan and the cooler Satan. Nohoho is a harder version of one of my favorite Puyo characters, Nohoho. Nohoho was only ever in Puyo box. Moving on. Just kidding. Nohoho actually has history in Puyo Puyo. He's Nohoho's curry smuggler partner in crime. That's it. He's still a palette swap. And in case it wasn't clear, These ones I've been glossing over are nothing more than palette swaps, which could count as a doppelganger. I'm sick of editing this video. This doppelganger, I only know what people have told me about. This section is partially ghost written. I was almost tempted to just flash it on screen for you to read. And I will. There. But I'll explain this guy now anyway. I'm not gonna gather footage of his debut game for context. I'm working on Saturn Madao in a nutshell. I don't want another big Japanese only game to research. I saved what I think is the most interesting for last. We're talking about this cave dweller's double now. Schezo's very own doppelganger Schezo. Like with doppelganger Arle. The concept of Schezo doppelgangers have been around before an actual character just claimed the title of the de facto one. The actual character would later receive a much more defined origin than his Arle counterpart in Waku Waku Puyo Puyo dungeon. Doppelganger Schezo is a gem. A space-time crystal to be precise. No relation to this butthole. Schezo attempted to steal the crystal's power, only for the crystal to pull a reverse card and steal the Dark Wizard's magic power instead. And therefore the crystal took Schezo's form, creating Doppelganger Schezo. The dark magic it stole from Schezo also immediately corrupted it and caused it to emulate Schezo's own hunger for power. Whether this is a result of dark magic having corrupting properties in general or linked to Schezo's ties to Rune Lord, a can of worms I don't feel like explaining, can only be speculated on. In either case, Doppelganger Schezo's powers and influence are used to explain the ever-shifting dungeon layouts of the game, giving him some influence before he is finally confronted by Arle, Rulu, or Schezo, depending on the campaign chosen. Upon his defeat, it is revealed that Doppelganger Schezo has a desire to be a real boy, leading to a sympathetic death and all of the protagonists mourning his demise, making him the most explicitly sympathetic doppelganger around. Raffizel comes close. They're the only ones I'm sure. And that's all he wrote for a while. Doppelganger Schezo, like Dark Witch, is in Puyo Puyo box. But he's also non-canon. He's just there in the scramble mode where you just beat everyone in your way in children's falling block puzzle games style. He returned in Puyo Puyo Quest. Sorta. It's actually Dark Schezo. It's totally Doppelganger Schezo though. He's under witness protection. Because in case you didn't know, copyrights regarding certain older Puyo Puyo Madao Monogatari characters are a headache and dumb. It's the same character, alive again because Puyo Puyo Quest is magical like that. He is given a crystal as part of his special ability animation and references his desire to be the real Schezo in flavor text, showing he is still meant to be Doppelganger Schezo. What I find interesting is that Doppelganger Schezo, like Raffizel and Poison Ringo, is only a doppelganger in looks, and in this case in powers as well, as he's partially made of Schezo's magic. Unlike Raffizel, who technically could have been made using anyone, Schezo was a necessary ingredient in making his doppelganger, because of his corrupting dark magic. But like Raffizel, its sentience seems to be his own. This is speculation. While he does wanna be the real Schezo, he doesn't seem intent to wanna kill Schezo, which is weird. Speaking as someone who has no context, seems to me the difference between Schezo and his doppelganger, besides being just different people, and one having some time and space powers, that Schezo seems more responsible with his powers. Like mugging people on the street for their magic, instead of making the place a roguelike. Have you noticed Doppelganger Schezo and Raffizel have been made with vaguely similar ingredients? 1. Both came from Aura gems. 2. Both have to do with time and space shenanigans. 3. Both have based their form on the nearest person. 4. They are both made from some kind of magic, or in Raffizel's case, and the inverse of love, which is Arle's type of magic, but isn't just her magic. 5. Both are sympathetic in some fashion, despite the awful things they did or wanted to do. They aren't one-to-one. They are functionally different. But it makes me wonder if there's just a recipe book on doppelgangers out there in the Puyo Puyo world since they are so close. It's like how lasagna and spaghetti are so similar but different. Wouldn't surprise me if Raffizel was sorta based on Doppelganger Schezo. Also my friend told me at the last minute that is a magical crystal. He's a sorta literal glass cannon. Doppelganger Schezo hits like a truck, but if he stubs his toe he's gone. So like Rafazor, his body isn't a biological copy of Schezo's either. But I already figured that. He is just made from a crystal and Schezo's magic. And that's all I've listed. To recap, we have the creepy ominous replacer disguised as a clown. That character if they went a dark path. The opposite of what you stand for double. Dark Carbuncle. A butthole who limitate you to mock you. Manifestations of what you wish you are like or something like that, I think. Nearly 90% original from their source. Fish. A murderous stranger that has your face. A man of mystery. Recolors. And something quite interesting and fairly deep compared to most of these bozos. And that's all the doppelgangers I wanted to talk about, because, if you wanna get pedantic, you can stretch this definition so hard. Because if you wanna get technical, some of there's alternate versions in Puyo Puyo Quest aren't actually just the same character but in a different costume. The Steam City alts are explicitly alternate universe versions of the characters. Should the universes meet they would be each other's lookalikes. But I don't want to talk about that. I also forgot about the oval and versions some Puyo Puyo Quest questies have. But I'm not gonna add them into the script. I'm pretty sure, as of writing, much of their lore is untranslated. They are just different people from a different world with the same names. They must come from a universe where fun is hard to come by. I mean look at these faces. It is interesting to see Puyo Puyo has so many clones, yet they aren't cut from the same cloth. Exception being the altered trio of course. But even then amongst themselves they are different as well. I have a list of possessed people in Puyo Puyo, and I could easily also make a video like this where I talk how none of the ghosts in Puyo Puyo look alike. But I don't think I'm gonna. I hope you liked the video. After all this I have one question. Why no doppelganger Rulu?